guys, it's Rudy Fowler from the Porcupine Speed Shop. You may know me from, does this look familiar? The 1,000 Mile Challenge. But before we get into the 1,000 Mile Challenge, I am and was a bit of a wrench head when it came to snowmobiling. I'm a diehard cat guy. I've been playing around with snowmobiles for a whole life, and I wanted to make a bunch of videos that explain to, say, a newcomer and maybe someone who's experienced in snowmobiling might benefit from. And it's kind of surrounding tuning your snowmobile and doing certain things that I believe are paramount to success on, say, the racetrack or on the trail or racing your buddies or anything like that. So when I grew up, we didn't have the tools that we do have today that allow us to improve your speeds, improve your ETs, that when you're racing your buddies. So what we used to do is we'd go out, change something on your snowmobile, put a can on it, race your buddy. He's changing stuff at the same time. Do you really know if you're making a difference or not? And quick story: I had a 93 EXT 550, and I put 580 cylinders on it, triple port, supposed to make 100 horsepower compared to the 80. And I would race my buddies back and forth, think I'm doing great things, make changes, play with the clutches, play with the gearing, play with the studs and the suspension and all that. And at the end of the day, my buddy on a stock 550 EXT would drive right underneath me. And I was like, man, you think you're making these great changes, but I had no metrics to compare it to other than, him who may not have changed something. So if you're a sledder and you want to get into snowmobiling, or you want to get into racing, there's a few things, 3 things that I think you should have. I think it's 3 things to get started, and I think everyone should have this right off the bat. I just picked up a new 858 catalyst. It is completely bone stock. I would like to make it quicker than the next catalyst, naturally. Ego thing, right? We want to be a little quicker than our buddies who have an 858 or an 850 Polaris or Skidoo. We're always running against each other. Excuse me. So the first thing, and some of you are going to argue with me about this, the first thing I think everyone should have is a subscription to Dynotech. Now, Dynotech was in Batavia, New York, Jim, we call him Dynotech Jim. I can't say his last name. It sounds Russian. He passed away this year, and he left us with a wealth of information. He had a dyno. So a dyno is a machine that measures horsepower, and Jim's would measure it at the crankshaft. And you could take your machine there, and you could make some adjustments while you're on the dyno. I've been there and tuned a couple sleds with my buddies, and then my own. It was with 1000 Firecat with the turbo on it, and I used to trail ride it. Excuse me. So I got to meet Jim. It was probably 6 or 7 years ago, and learned a lot. But what the information that I paid him to give me is where my sled makes power. So the first thing I think everyone should have is a subscription to Dynotech, and it will give you these wonderful articles that Jim used to write, and it is being taken over by a guy named Frankie Amalfi. Tell me if I got that right. Frankie Amalfi. He just moved all the dyno equipment out today. He's going to be taking on Jim's legacy, and he's going to be doing dyno testing on snowmobiles, and I'm not sure what else. But I'm hoping he gives us the same information that we used to get. So this is a Dynotech report. It's for an 858 catalyst. It's one of the last sleds that Jim actually dynoed and published. It gives me all this information on pre-break-in, post-break-in on the same machine that I've purchased. And then at the end of it, I actually get a dyno sheet, and it will tell me where my snowmobile makes power. So I've got an 858, and he shows here at the end on with hot pipes versus cool pipes, I believe. Or no, sorry, this is versus this is horsepower compared to Polaris Ski-Doo, and the Arctic Cat. So this information, why is this information important? Well, my 858's revving 8,200 RPM right out of the box. We'll stay out of the box once break-in was done. So when I look at that, compared to the dyno sheets, it's actually making power a lot less than that. So what I need to do is adjust things on my snowmobile to keep my engine working in the maximum RPM. So how would I know that unless I had a dyno or get a dyno sheet, which it would be from Jim. This costs $30 a month to subscribe to Dynotech. I don't know if Frankie will be following the same model. I know it'll probably be new and improved. He's a lot younger. He's probably got a little more experience with computers and technology and whatnot. Excuse me. So that's one of the first things I think that anybody should have. If you got an old F7, if you've got an E-Tech 800, if you've got a VMAX 4, all that information is on Dynotech's website. You subscribe once, you get all that information from years past. So if you're running, let's say an F7, most F7s rev over 8,000 out of the box. If you get them down around 77, 7,800, they will absolutely gap one that doesn't rev where it should. And how would you have that information? So great resource. So I have this for my new catalyst, and I'm going to be using that information to make it a little quicker than the next guy. And I'm going to carry these YouTube videos along and show you guys exactly how I tune, what I've done in the past, and hopefully it'll help you guys and save you some time and money. The second thing that I think everybody should have is a GPS timer. This is a V-Box. It's a little older. These were almost $1,000 at the time. Now they have a box called the Dragy. I think they're $200, $300. What it does, it goes on your machine. It collects data from the satellites, and it will give you your 0 to 60 times, your 60-foot times. So important in drag racing, how many seconds it takes you to get from 0 feet to the 60-foot line. It'll give you whatever you set up on it. It'll give you your 660 times, which in snow drags, which is what I'm interested in. That's what is most important. So I have an 800 Arctic Cat now that I've got running right around 7 seconds on snow in 660. And I've used this tool and this tool to get me there. It's a very competitive sled. It's a trail sled. It's not a race sled. And with this information, it just hooks to your cell phone, put it on your sled, has a battery in it, you hook it to satellites, and you just make a pass. So what I'll do is I actually have a spreadsheet, and I run 3 passes with this on the exact same setup, trying to keep my coolant temperature the same, trying to keep all the variables the same. I'll do 3 passes, and I'll take that data, and hopefully it's very consistent. Then I'll make one change. I might change my spring, a helix, I might change a suspension setup. I'll just do one change at a time, and then I'll go back out, try to keep the rest of the variables all the same, and I'll run it again 3 times with that change, and then I'll take that data back and I'll look at it and I'll say, was this good or bad? And maybe I'll put a little screenshot of some of the data that I've collected from my 800 in the past that I plan to use the same method for this new 858. And I'm absolutely open to sharing all this stuff with you guys, and hopefully it's interest to you. The third thing is a positive attitude, but also this is a clutch guide from Thunder Products. I think everyone should read this. It's excellent. If you buy a set of clutch weights, it'll actually come. I believe, well, the last set of weights came with this, but you can download this free from their website. So Thunder Products makes all kinds of cool stuff, clutch rebuild components that you can't get anywhere else, rollers, weights, go rings, pretty cool. I believe springs, and they do a lot of homework as well. So in here it explains how clutches work. And it tells you what changes what part of the weight does what happens if you put it in certain sections. Really cool information. I think everyone should read that. My son's kind of taken an interest in this, and I'm going to give him this because I think he should read it. And it's a magical art, the how the clutches work. So let's say you have a machine and it's stock, and you want to get it revving to where you want it to. I would do some baseline tests with this device first, and then I would try to get it to start revving where it should be on full throttle, and using this guide. And also, how are you going to do that, right? How are you going to get your revs to where they need to be? Well, another thing that I find is important, and I know I talked about Thunder products, but Dalton is in my backyard in Nova Scotia. This is a set of adjustable clutch weights, and I believe, yes, these are for the new Adapt clutch. And what I'm able to do is add and subtract weight in my clutch to give me the desired RPM at a certain speed that I want it to be at. And that's probably the best thing that you can do, and the cheapest thing that you can do to improve your performance right off the bat. Get your sled revving where it needs to be. So, set of adjustable clutch weights, which you can buy. I don't know if these are also a set of adjustable clutch weights for a Firecat, but you can buy regular weights. But the advantage of these, the adjustable weights are more money, of course, but you can change it almost 10 grams of weight in each weight. So it just saves pulling weights out, purchasing a whole bunch of different weights, and trying a whole bunch of different things. Now, there's obviously other things you can do with your springs, and I've got a bunch of springs here as well. Helixes. A lot of guys will have a whole smorgasbord of items to play with. But if you change things and your conditions change, you got to restart. And I think this tool is the best thing that you can find if you want to, or a Dragy. So most guys are using the Dragy now. So with those tools, that guide, some adjustable clutch parts, a dyno sheet, even if you get a different dyno sheet from someone else, as long as the RPMs are correct. A lot of dynos will give you completely inflated numbers, and it really doesn't matter as long as the peak horsepower is where it should be. Now with Dynotech, and I'm hoping he continues with this, they should be testing aftermarket parts to see if they actually make horsepower. So I know in the past we've had different aftermarket companies that'll come out with, let's say for example, a can on an F7. Anybody who puts a can on an F7, you're losing RPM every time. It's lighter, sounds cooler for sure. They kill horsepower. I don't know of a can on a single pipe F7 that will make your sled go quicker. Good to know, right? So Dynotech kind of pulls the pants down on the aftermarket, which is awesome in my opinion. So my 800 was actually built off of a dyno sheet from a customer of Jim's at Dynotech. So I knew that all those parts put together were going to make power. I knew certain things made power that they tried, and they were doing tightening up the exhaust, they were trying porting, they were trying different heads, different exhaust pipes, they'd have pipe shootouts, and you could compare all that and say, okay, well, this sled, so in my case, my sled now makes the best power at 8,400 RPM. Well, how would you know that? Other than maybe listening to it if you're good, and understanding that this is where my sled needs to rev. So I added almost 30 horsepower to my 800, and the RPMs went from, should have been 8,000 RPM stock, now they're 8,400 based on the pipe and the porting of the cylinders, and it absolutely rips. But guess what? I had to take a bunch of clutch weight out because now this clutch is spinning faster. It's actually putting more force because it's spinning faster, and it took me a while to dial it in, but with these tools I was able to get it as good as I think I can. Every time I make a change now, it seems to go back the other way. So anyway, I thought I'd just introduce myself, introduce a few of the tools that I plan on using. And if you subscribe the Porcupine Speed Shop, the reason it's called the Porcupine Speed Shop, there's a stream out here. It's called the Porcupine Stream, and all I do, I work out of my basement. And I've got a couple sleds. I've got a 03 F7. I've got a 2016 800 Arctic Cat with a Suzuki engine, and I've got a brand spanking new 858 with 53 miles on it, just at a break-in mode, not even studded yet. So we're going to take you guys on an adventure where we do a bunch of stock testing. We're going to run it against the 800, which is a good base machine to run it against. And then we're going to start making changes. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add traction. So if you're spinning, it's really hard to get a consistent result. I know some guys are out there testing on snow, and it's hard to be consistent if you spin on one run and you don't on another run. So the key for me is traction. So you'll see some videos come up where I'm studding the track. I'm going to show you how I do a stud pattern and my methodology behind that. And then we're going to get the things on some consistent traction, and we're going to run the sleds against each other, and we're going to get some baseline stuff, and then we're going to start loading that clutch. And then we may do some airbox modifications. We might do some things to see if we can squeeze a little more power out of that sled. Anyways, a little video to kind of explain what I plan on doing. In the background, we've got a brand spanking new clutch for the F7. I found that at the Toronto Snowmobile show, actually. $300 for a brand new clutch, Canadian. It's like $150 American. So we've got some brand new weights from Dale at Dalton Industries in Nova Scotia, and we're going to put those in there. I did have a set of his weights in there before. Nothing really wrong with them. I just felt like a brand new clutch deserves some brand new weights. And we're going to show you some things with the Firecat as well that I've learned over the years. I've had 18 different Firecats since 2003, and so this all trail sleds, well studded, and but they are competitive in a stock or improved stock class. Trail improved, I guess is what we call it. So yeah, subscribe to the channel. I'll put some more content up. I've got some weighing of the sleds and whatnot, and unboxing of the 858 coming up to put out. And yeah, I hope you guys follow along. I hope this is interesting, and tell your friends.